you talk about Fernando in 2005. Fernando had a twisty track and no DRS to worry about, right? This guy had a 2.2 mile straight and Charles Leclerc in a Ferrari with DRS and still didn't get past.
This was the moment he showed me that this kid isn't could be a world champion. This kid will be a world champion. He is fantastic. And if I was a betting man, I'd put money on him winning next year.
Or winning a championship next year.
Winning a championship next year.
Take your foot very briefly off the throttle and get back in there with a view to get through to Q2. Lando, not only did he not do that, he's made a mistake at the very next corner, and then I see him throw in the bloody towel and park it up in the pits. No, I'm not having it, chap. You're not going to be. Nobody's beating Max Verstappen like that. No one.
Well, I don't think he's playing the game well enough or correctly. Even if he's got speed, all of the other accoutrements that come with being a champion just seem to be missing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shakedown podcast. With me as always, my brothers, the goatiest F1 minds who have ever F1, some will say. So Baxty and Shazina, how are we doing, chaps? It doesn't matter how you are doing because we need to talk about some F1-age, of which there is a lot this weekend post the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Let me pitch the first question that you like this, Baxter, because I was amazed at Oscar Piastri's drive that a man in his sophomore season could do what he did, putting the move on Charles Leclerc and then hold him off for 30-something laps. Am I getting too hyped about Oscar Jack Piastri? How did you ingest that performance? Do you rate it alongside one of the greatest that you've ever seen, per an Alonso in 05 or Ayrton Senna at Monaco in 84?
Oh, this was the coming out party, wasn't it? I mean, this was unbelievable. You know, to soak up that level of pressure. I've never seen a second year driver do that since Lewis. You know, and it was amazing performance. Yeah, people will talk about flexi wings all they want, but the simple fact is he did not crack under pressure. His car placement was perfect. He was able to keep Charles exactly where he wanted him. He kept the gap to just the right point where he knew that Charles could get a DRS run on him, but not quite have enough to get past. It was absolutely incredible. And what heightened the drama was Perez behind, because Charles could have easily just sat off, brought his tyres in, and then bang, go and get him and make Oscar drive off into the distance and you know, burn his tyres off. But Charles couldn't do that because he had Perez right up his backside. So that then put the pressure on Charles. It was stunning driving from really all three of them, to be honest. But to give Oscar, we're talking about Oscar, this was the moment he showed me that this kid could be a world champion. This kid will be a world champion. He is fantastic. And if I was a betting man, I'd put money on him winning next year.
Or winning a championship next year.
Winning a championship next year.
Bloody Nora Baxley, stop the press. I'd love to argue with you, but again, it's too soon. On the back of that performance, I'm still in awe of that dude. His stoicism, his ability to be so clinical in the overtake, and then his ability to hold up. I just can't. I don't know, it left a big smile on my face. Shez, talk to me. Were you more impressed by the overtake on Charles Leclerc or by the defence that followed shortly thereafter?
Oh, I'm going to go with what Oscar said. He said 40% of the work was the overtake and 60% of the work was keeping Charles Leclerc behind him. And I think that's how it looked. I mean, the overtake was special, man. Like to ignore the instructions from the pit wall, just go, whatever, even though I burnt my tyres out in the last stint, I need to make this pass now, do it, bang. And then to keep that Ferrari, which had younger tyres on it, behind him to that level within the DRS for lap after lap after lap after lap. Mate, like you talk about Fernando in 2005. Fernando had a twisty track and no DRS to worry about, right? This guy had a 2.2 mile straight and Charles Leclerc in a Ferrari with DRS and still didn't get past. That's as in he did not get past. That's pretty special. Like, and that was all him doing that work, right? That was good. Really liked it.
Mate, I rated it. And again, some say that Cameron F1 has been quite disparaging about Oscar Piastri of late, saying that Lando Norris would hand his AWS to him. And I'm still not diametrically opposed to that thesis. Like I think there's merit in there. Like I will reserve judgment, but that dude, nobody can tell me that he hasn't got a substantial upside as far as his potential going forward. Remembering again for context that this is only his sophomore season. What are we talking about? How that dude, honestly. And again, another point that I've said before that I'm not sure post Sir Lewis Hamilton's retirement that there's a fella on that grid capable of taking it to Maximilian Verstappen, like in earnest, race by race by race. And again, I might have to recant on that one. I think he has a name, and I think his name is Oscar Jack Piastri. Let me parlay this at you, Baxty, because there's been a lot of talk about Lando Norris's qualifying session. Because again, the chat going into this race and potentially into this season is that Lando, as brilliant as he is, as fast as he is, A to B, again, probably every bit as quick or just shy of Charles Leclerc in absolute terms pace. The knock on Lando is that, not dissimilar to what some people say about Charles, is that he makes these unforced errors, right? In qualifying, Baxty, how did you ingest that yellow flag? Because again, Lando Norris has said all the critics that say, well, I should have been a bit more diplomatic with my throttle, as George Russell was when he had Carlos Sainz parked up in the runoff area, knowing that the cost-benefit analysis is, you know what, better sometimes to ask for forgiveness than permission. Better the throttle and then plead your case to the bloody FIA. Make sure you get through to Q2. Lando Norris has said that that's all nonsense. I did the right thing and it was just fortuitous circumstances or lack thereof that ultimately did me in. Where do you sit on that fence, Baxty?
So I didn't watch it live, and I've only seen like little snippets of it because I was rehearsing all day for a major gig yesterday. It's unlucky. I mean, look, he shouldn't have been in that position in the first place, not with that car. Like, if we're talking, the McLaren of yesteryear that he's had previously, then you think, okay, yeah, that's maybe where Lando would be. But this is a car that is the fastest on the grid right now. He shouldn't have been anywhere near that position. And we saw what Oscar did. P2, go and win the race. So he was unlucky with the flag, but that was a situation he needlessly got himself into. And on the weekend where he was sort of decreed by royal order that he would be the number one driver, this was not the weekend he needed. Yes, he came back and beat Max. Great. Didn't take the points out of him that he needed to do to win the title. But yeah, and couple that with this is the weekend that Oscar's coming out party. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, it's now all bust for Lando at McLaren, certainly. He might go to another team and do it that way, but Oscar's coming for him, and it's inevitable that I think Oscar's going to overtake him. And I think, yeah, not a good weekend for Lando. Unlucky with the yellow flag, but...
Oof. Jez, talk to me, bruv. Do you think Lando is unlucky the right signifier to characterise Lando's skirmish with a cheeky yellow flag during Q1? Is that the word that you would use?
No, I'd say it's fairly consistent for Lando. When the game is to drive up to the yellow and then take your foot off the throttle, which if he had done that, there wouldn't have been a yellow flag when he got there. Him taking his foot off the throttle as soon as he saw it is very polite, lovely Lando Norris, isn't it? But too often that politeness gets in the way of him getting big results. And I think on Sunday, Oscar Piastri basically had the race that Lando Norris should have had. And that's only going to tighten the screw a little bit more. But this isn't a new thing. This is what's been happening right the way through this season. He's too polite when it comes to wheel-to-wheel racing. He's too polite with his team. He's now too polite with the rules. When other people are trying to, Formula One is about pushing the limits and trying to see often what you can get away with. I don't think he's playing the game well enough or correctly. Even if he's got speed, all of the other accoutrements that come with being a champion just seem to be missing.
Oh, Get you throwing in the French terminology, mate. But I think you're spot on. Shez. I just think my litmus test is Lewis was in that circumstance in Q1. Put a George Russell in that circumstance in Q1. Put a Fernando Alonso or an Ayrton Senna, any one of those, and they want to get through to Q2 more than anything else in the world. They're not looking to go out. And again, Peter Windsor just finished admonishing me for sacrificing safety at the altar of sporting endeavour, and I get that. I can't argue against that. And again, if you're talking about Gilles Villeneuve, this is exactly how he ultimately met his tragic end, right? But saying that, there is a tension always, as Adrian Newey outlined so eloquently in his book, How to Build a Car. There is a tension between lap time and safety. It's always been a sliding rule, right? So what do you want to do, Lando Norris? Do you want to be a champion, or do you want to be also running? In moments like that, you've got to make yourself a decision. Let's say he took his foot out the throttle, then what's that bloody mistake about? You're telling me that you don't give yourself a better chance of getting through to Q2 had you not made that mistake, Lando Norris? And therein lies my issue with the chap. As brilliant as he can be, sometimes he just makes these unforced errors and has these lapses of judgment. And I don't think, I was going to say it's unacceptable. Listen, if you don't want to be a champion, you don't harbour aspirations to beat yourself on Maximilian Verstappen, then all that's fine. You know what I mean? But if you do want to get yourself some WDC silverware and at your face end up on the Mount Rushmore of F1, then Lando Norris, surely I put forth to you this way. You need to fix for those things in real time quickly, mate, because there's not very long left of this season. Do you know what I mean?
Can I just say that the contrast between Lando and Oscar was stark, right? Where Lando is sitting there going, I'm going to take my foot off the accelerator and not get through to Q2. Oscar's out there saying, Tom Stallard, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm just going to overtake Charles Leclerc. Who is the number one driver? Who's acting more like a number one driver? Just answer me that.
I've got a comparison to make between the two of them. So older fans may know this. And it's a different sport. I'm getting very Bradley Wiggins and Chris Froome vibes from these two at the minute, where they were teammates and Froome's job was to help Wiggins, which eventually he did. But there was a stage in the 2012 Tour de France where Wiggins was leading and then Froome rode away from him and then was like, well, actually, I better go back and get him. He played the team game, but it was like him kind of showing the world, like, I'm actually the guy. So Wiggins got all the glory for being the first British guy to win the Tour de France, but then Froome won 4 out of the next 5 years and then won the other 2 Grand Tours as well. So it's kind of Oscar saying, I'll help Lando this year, but if he gives me a sniff and qualifies badly, I've got a team to drive for. I'm going to be the number one guy on the day, which is exactly what he did.
And by the way, I'm going to use you to help me get my win, which I found even more interesting.
Yeah. Way to just assume by virtue of circumstances the number 2 role very, very nicely and neatly. But again, I do feel bad for Lando, but he's got to take some responsibility. When I hear him again putting his foot in his mouth, talking about all the critics around Yellow Flag Gate are talking nonsense, I'm like, hang on, Lando. Everybody, I've heard so many people on so many different podcasts saying, listen, the way that you do that in racing, like you said, Shez, you drive to the yellow flag. George Russell was able to survey his environment and understand instantaneously that the reason for the yellow flag was Carlos Sainz, and you're okay because he's parked up 9 times out of 10, right? Go for it then. Take your foot very briefly off the throttle and get back in there with a view to get through to Q2. Lando, not only did he not do that, he's made a mistake at the very next corner. And then I see him throw in the bloody towel and park it up in the pits. No, I'm not having it, chap. You're not going to nobody's beating Max Verstappen like that. No one.
Well, it's almost like he's thinking, well, I want to avoid a penalty. Well, what's worse, avoiding a penalty or going out in Q1?
Q1, yeah.
That's a bigger penalty than what you could have got if you pushed it. It's like, yeah, I get it. You're fighting for a championship and you want to avoid penalties at all costs. But, I mean, it was Sebastian Vettel, Brazil, 2009. You're chasing the championship. You're coming from a long way back. And then you have a shocker of a qualifying session and end up completely out of it. basically, and unable to influence anything on the day.
Mate, no bueno from Lando, and I'm rooting for him, chaps. I'll be honest with you, just in the name of the competitive landscape. I would love to see a championship that goes down right down to the wire, as did 2021, and our best hope for that is Lando Norris. Not that I'm a big fan of him necessarily as a person, but as a peddler, he's brilliant. And again, he represents the best hope for the F1 community of keeping it interesting and stakes and uncertainty down to the wire. But you know what? You're blowing it, son. You're blowing it. Should we talk about Charles Leclerc very quickly, Shez? Because how did you ingest the fella's performance? For a while again, he looked like an absolute world beater again, and I had to shut my mouth with the modern day genre lazy talk, you know what I mean? All the unforced errors. I thought I was onto a good one there, that I was going to be able to cash my chips at the bookmakers when he stacked it in free practice. But then he, again, as he does so often, he recovers, and he makes me shut my mouth by a ridiculously good qualifying that only is made to look better by what happened in the race. How do you summarise Charles Leclerc's performance at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Shez?
It was good, wasn't it? Other than that one moment where he probably should have left a little less space on the inside than he did. It kind of felt like McLaren's season in a microcosm. We've got the car to do it now, but we'll better just wait till next season. Charles let Oscar Piastri through because he thought, oh, it's all right, I'll get past on the next lap, and it just never happened, did it? I mean, part of that is because Oscar drove an incredible defensive race after that. Part of it was because there was probably a bit of trickery going on in the McLaren rear wing, which meant it was pretty spicy down the straights. How's that for a spicy wing pun? And then, but you know, either side of that, it was pretty good. And to be fair, he got overtook because he was trying to do the thing that he done in Monza, which was see my tyres in as nicely as I could. Make sure I've got some for the rest of the stint. And in doing so, he was too conservative and got overtaken by a driver that I think has really realised that the most important thing here is free air. You're in free air, you can do what the hell you want. Did any of you guys find it odd that it was Charles' rear tyres that went off, not his fronts?
Oh, because of the nature of Baku. It's a good shout, actually, and one that I hadn't considered. Who knows what's going on with those Pirellis at the moment? And again, George Russell and Mercedes are killing them. I don't even understand. Something is happening to them.
Black magic for sure.
George Russell, for the avoidance of doubt, said that in the first stint he felt like he was driving a car from a different formula, right? Back marker settings, but then as soon as he put on the hards, all of a sudden the car just came to him, and he felt like he had a chance of beating Oscar Piastri on pace, which is chaos, to be fair to King George of Kings Lynn, Norfolk. But let me touch on that, Charles, before we digress and tangent. That Charles decision, Shez, to not defend to Oscar. At first, you know what? At first I chalked it up to the game, and I thought, coming back from 20 metres down the road, there's no way that Charles could have seen it. So I was almost disappointed, Shez, to hear Charles in the post-race press conference say, no, I saw him, but I just didn't defend it. Shades of bloody Abu Dhabi 21 and Lewis Hamilton going into that. So I'm like, defend it, mate. Like, defend it. I get the thing about bringing your tyres in. But Baxley, let me ask you the question this way. Do you think Charles Leclerc underestimated Oscar Jack in thinking that he was going to give him that position and then get round him again afterwards with DRS?
So, yeah, well, I think he was thinking, well, we're at Baku, I've got a 2 kilometre straight to get past him. I think he wasn't. Yes, he was. He did underestimate Oscar, but I don't think he would have cared. It wasn't specifically Oscar. I just think he thought, I can get past this car and we can sort of do, pass the parcel of the leadership, basically. And actually, he ended up being caught out by that. But again, also, I think he pushed his tyres harder than he wanted to, because I think in an ideal world, he would have just sat off Oscar and then waited for Oscar's tyres to completely die off. And then he would then make his move, which is what Lando did to Max in Zandvoort, and then Lando was trying to do to Charles in Monza before he pitted. And ultimately he couldn't do that because Perez was the one putting pressure behind. So
This is techie.
if he sits off, then Perez is past him. I mean, where I want to praise Charles is actually say, actually, your defense of Perez once your tyres went off was equally as good as Oscar's defense. And actually ended up causing Perez to make the mistake, which then allowed Sainz through, and then we all saw what happened after that. Though I do want to say this: is there anything more useless in Formula One than a Charles Leclerc pole position?
Oh, the humanity's gone there, hasn't he? He's gone there. He's gone there. I didn't want to say it, Shez. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to say if I played devil's advocate for the Charles out there, fucking no, actually. There's nothing more useless than a Charles Leclerc pole position at Baku. If I play devil's advocate for a second, you explain some of those poles by Max Verstappen's dominance, right? Potentially, and then this one, I think I'd love to use it as a rod for Charles Leclerc, aka modern day Jean Alesi's back, but I just think he was so good. He was so good. I want to, when he's like that, when he's in that mood, it's hard to argue, even for me to argue against Charles Leclerc. He was brilliant. Or I do question some of that decision making. However, initially in real time, I was like, well, just come out of the DRS zone. Why? Because there's a tax to be paid as far as tyre deg from being in that dirty air for too long. And it's a matter of when, not if, your tyres fall off. But again, even in retrospect, that doesn't make sense because you need to be in the DRS, right? So you almost want to be like 0.9 and then it's just too hot. How do you do that? I don't even know. It's but then some say, catch this, Shez, you'll like this, loop in the circle. Some say that the only reason why he suffered from tyre deg towards the latter stage of that race is because
he was too hard on his own tyres?
It's because of the crash in FP1. And
because he didn't get enough. Yeah, the thing is, what I heard about that was, well, Ferrari didn't get a chance to run the hard tyres in FP2. Well, nobody ran the hard tyres in FP2 other than Mercedes. So I'm not sure what information they were going to gain from doing something.
Some more than they ended up with.
He says no, but anyway, yeah. I mean, I do take your point. Can I just ask you a question, both of you? Do you think that race would have been made better by a Charles Leclerc dive bomb somewhere in the middle of that to take the lead again?
Well, to be fair, as I'm listening to him post-race, he said that he had an opportunity. I want to say lap 45, I think he had an opportunity. He was close.
To go down the inside, to throw it down the inside?
Yeah, he was close. It was going to be the same manoeuvre that Oscar pulled right. I think he should have had a go. I would have liked to see him had a go. I don't think the race would have been better or worse, to be fair. I think that's one of those rare ones where you didn't need a gazillion overtakes. The tension and the stakes
was there, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh, mate. I couldn't keep my eyes off it.
Like, can I say how much more exciting was this race watching three drivers? I'm going to include Perez in this conversation. Three drivers putting pressure on each other, and when they did get their elbows out, it was clean.
Yes.
It was picture perfect and not crash or yield like someone else.
Oof.
Mate, I'm telling you, like I was in real time. I was thinking exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
this is lap after lap after lap. We get a bit of tension. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen?
Yeah, it was
rather
great.
than he didn't leave enough space on the outside. Oh, I'm in the wall. We're both in the wall. Oh, look, George Russell's won another race.
Oh, mate,
Could you imagine if Russell had that would have been the funniest thing ever.
Very nearly though, eh? Picking up the pieces. No, it was a brilliant race. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed the Oscar Jack theme and Charles, it was just, I don't know, it was something different.
Baku shouldn't work as a track, and yet somehow it does.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
It's so good.
Produces these bangers.
Oh,
time after time. Bloody Nora. No, I relish this Oscar Jack, and even this about bloody team orders. How about your team orders, McLaren? Good luck for instituting those next time round. Will Buxton did say on the race podcast, Will Buxton, that he's had words with insiders at the Papaya Colour team, and they've said that there is a reason for why they're so hesitant to institute for team orders, and that reason is the not insubstantial upside of one Oscar Piastri. And you doubt it, up until Azerbaijan. Then you see that and you're like, holy smoke. Let me pitch a yes or no question, chaps. If Lando Norris doesn't not qualify for Q2, does he win that race? Come to you first, Shez. Just a quick yes or no, chap, if you could.
No.
Oh, Baxley, what say you, sir?
No.
Oh, it's techie, you know. It's so techie, that. It's techie.
I think given the pace of Leclerc, and it could, I mean, he could have chased. I mean, I'm guessing if he was in Oscar's position, maybe.
I think Lando would have been too polite to throw one down the inside at the time that he did. If Will Joseph had told him you need to back off and not pull a move, he would have just been like,
true.
Yes,
Wow,
yeah.
There you go, and therein lies the difference fundamentally between the two. Go on then, chaps. Talk to me about Checo and Sainz. Who done it? A quick 1 or 2 word answer from you, Baxley, would do me just fine.
Racing incident. I think the stewards got the right call. Both of their steering wheels are dead straight, and they just basically they kept their foot in. Racing incident.
And what say you, Shazinho?
Oh yeah, Martin Brundle style, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
It's techie, that. Because did you see Karan Chandok's analysis, like with Horner, by the way, going through on the sky? Definitely wasn't nothing to do with Checo. That was all Carlos Sainz.
And if Sainz doesn't get a penalty, I'll be very disappointed.
Oh my gosh. Karan Chandok.
But Karun is all in on Red Bull. No,
I was just about to say.
I apologise, Karun.
I was just about to say there is no bias to be seen in Karan Chandok. What do you mean? He won't be in attendance at the Red Bull hospitality dinner for journalists this year, will he? No, absolutely not. Not with champagne glass in hand.
And if you don't like it, just don't watch F1.
Oh yeah, can you imagine? What I still cannot believe that he said that. I can't.
That's our Sky F1 invite revoked.
This is
not that we had one anyway. But
no, I definitely don't have one so critical of them. Talk to me very quickly about the broadcast, chaps, because I've heard different things. Some say it was an absolute nightmare from Harry Benjamin, mistaking Max Verstappen for Checo. Like, there was a couple of mistakes on there, wasn't there? Bring back Crofty, where many people were speaking about Crofty very disparagingly before. Grateful for the breath of fresh air brought that another non-Crofty weekend had brought. Baxley, talk to me about it. What did you think about the broadcast? Am I being too harsh?
Look, Harry's learning. He's young. You know, he's done 3 races this year, and actually the first 2 he did. I thought he really enjoyed him at Imola and Austria. Thought he did a really good job. You know, okay, so he didn't have such a good day at the office, but we all have good days and bad days, right? I mean, you know, look, I think they're kind of grooming him to be the next one, as it were. You know, him and Jakesy will probably be the voices of F1 going forwards once Crofty decides to hang up the mic. That'll probably be a few years yet, but yeah, people make mistakes. It happens, you know, and this kid's inexperienced, and it's probably the most chaotic race he's had to deal with.
True.
I think.
True. But it's not as some say about Charles Leclerc, it's not that he makes mistakes, it's the extent of them. You can't mistake Max Verstappen for Carlos Sainz. That's low level. I'm streaming in real time and he says that and I'm like, now hang on. You just and worse, the camera was just on the other Red Bull driver and then it cuts and then you that in physics, that's not actually possible. You were just talking about one and then he's dropped the ball there, hasn't he? But craziness, lads, you guys have been legends as always. I love these F1 talks going back and forth, dissecting for all things. The one that F's talking about how noddy Charlotte. No, I can't say that in earnest. It was a brilliant. I'd love to drop the mic on that bombshell, but no, Charles Leclerc didn't deserve it. He was quality this race weekend, notwithstanding the fact that he didn't come away with the dub, which was unfortunate, but sometimes the racing gods can be kind. That has been another Shakedown podcast. You guys have been legends. If you're watching on the YouTubes, even like, share and comment, por favor. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, 5 stars and a follow as always. That has been Baxty. He has been Shazinho, at Baxty B, at Shesmed, the Tired GP podcast. You guys have been legends. Between now and next time, as always, remember to look but never stare.